Hey, Celeste.
Hello.
Betty's daughter's walking her through how to use it on her phone right now. She just muted, and I don't know if she knows how to get back yet or not.
Okay. Oh,
She's on. I think she's using her phone or something.
okay.
Hello, Celeste.
How are you?
Good.
I have a
Oh, my
guest
goodness.
today.
Yeah, I see that.
Let's see.
So Betty, you going to show your picture? I see you're still muted.
Whatever was sitting
Okay,
there.
now can you hear me? But now I got to figure out how to get my picture back on there.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Start video. Okay. Well, really, I was gonna go put some makeup on, but I don't think I'm gonna work with that. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go get my dad in here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
do
That's
that.
great. That's great.
Cece, you're going to have to tilt your screen down.
Hello.
So I brought my makeup. I brought my makeup.
There you go.
So we're.
Oh, you got
so
your
we can have.
We need our mask.
Yeah.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, Paul, you're looking good.
I made some out of paper towels just playing around because I saw it on Facebook, and I put one on my dog, and it was a hoot.
Oh, there you go. I like that one, Paul.
Let me see, Paul. Oh, I like that one too.
Yeah.
How do you mute?
In your bottom left-hand corner, if you move your cursor down, there'll be a little microphone there.
There's a little microphone.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So how many people are on?
Just what you can see right now, about 5 of us. 7 counting.
You want to be in or not?
We've got two
Hello,
here.
George.
We've got
Hello
2
there,
here
George.
and 3 dogs. Do they count?
There you go.
Yeah. I've got one outside my door. It keeps busted in. Hey, George, are you buying lunch today?
Yeah.
Yeah. So CC down at the bottom, it ought to say, if you move your cursor down, it says participants. It said there's five people logged in.
Yeah, I can see all of them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did somebody help Frank? Is he able to do it?
I don't know. I talked to him. I called him day before yesterday, and he said he was reading the instructions. He'd holler back if he needed something.
Oh, okay.
Celeste, I opened up the PowerPoint, but whenever I went to share a screen, it blocked things out. So I figured I'll let you share.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. Now
Okay.
I need to get the participants, but yeah. So how did we get all our participants back in the upper corner, right? Upper corner of the picture.
They'll show up on your right-hand side of your screen.
On my right-hand side, I'm only seeing you. Thank you. And next, go ahead and be seated. Let's do the prayer. Sorry. Four-way test. Please join me in a four-way test. So things we think, say, or do. First.
Is the truth.
The truth.
Second.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Glory. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope we don't sing.
Thank you. Today I put in a little different pledge. I get this from Uverse, and I wanted to share it with all. I can't quite see the very bottom, I don't think, but I thought it was a very appropriate prayer for this time. So if you'd please join me in this prayer. It's a prayer for our world. God, you alone are worthy of our honor, glory, and praise.
with you,
we can achieve every storm, including the global impact of the COVID-19 is having on the world.
Right now,
Right now, we're asking you to
heal
heal
those
the
who are
sick
sick
and
and protect those who are not.
Give our
Give
leaders
leaders extra wisdom as they navigate this pandemic and economic uncertainty. Strengthen your global church. Reveal to us how we can partner together to reach the needs of those around us. Our fears. Fill us with your hope, joy, and peace as we continue to trust in you.
Use this pandemic to
Spiritual renewal.
We want your glory,
power, and
healing to be on display. Come, Jesus.
Come, Lord Jesus, come.
Come.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, Bob, you want to introduce our guest?
Well, yes, we've got several here. Celeste, will you do us the honor of, no, I'm sorry, Stephanie. Will you do us the honor again of introducing your special guests?
My guests have abandoned us for the pile in the other room. But my son Steven and my other son Soren were both here, and they'll probably be in and out.
Well, very good. Good to have them with us on this special Zoom broadcast. Well, I just wanted to remind everybody that on this particular day, it was actually in 1866 that the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals was founded. And at the time, in 1866, Abraham Lincoln sent a special emissary, a man by the name of Henry Berg, to the court of Alexander II in Russia. And while he was there in Russia, he noticed quite a few people that were peasants that were actually beating horses, beating animals with whips, forcing them to pull heavy loads, heavy wagons. And so when he came back to London, he noticed that London already had a society for the prevention of cruelty to animals. And so when he returned to America, he established the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals on this very date, April 10th, 1866. And it has flourished ever since. So this is actually the anniversary date of the society, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And I would also make a comment, if I may, that this was the date when Robert E. Lee addressed the Confederate forces for the very last time. And he had surrendered his Confederate forces, his troops, to the Union General General Grant the day before, on April 9th. And then on this very date, he addressed his troops. And if I may, I would like to read that short address to you, if I might. Is that fair enough?
yes.
All right.
Go for it.
You just have to shake here. This is Robert E. Lee's final address to the Confederate forces for the very last time. Quote, After 4 years of arduous service, marked by unsurpassed courage and fortitude, the Army of Northern Virginia has been compelled to yield to overwhelming numbers and resources. I need not tell the brave survivors of so many hard-fought battles who have remained steadfast to the last that I have consented to the result from no distrust of them. I determined to avoid the useless sacrifice of those whose past services have endeared them to their countrymen. I bid you an affectionate farewell. That was General Robert E. Lee on this very date in 1865 when he had surrendered his forces to General Grant the day before on April 9th, 1865.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
You bet.
Thank you. All right. We got all the guests announced. Let's move to the next slide. You can still check in if you want to on Facebook. I left that in there, so I think we can still do that activity. Remind you to do that. I threw in a quote here for you. I can't quite see the last piece of it, but I thought it was pretty appropriate for this time. We can't touch, but we can still reach out. What's the next part there? We can't.
We hunker down.
We hunker down, but we still rise up. And it was from Senator Corey book. So I thought that was pretty appropriate for this time thing. So I threw it in. I moved my picture box. That's better. I wanted to mention the 5810 district events. Many of them are canceled or moved out, including Paul's trip to Honolulu has been canceled. But there are gatherings right now that are scheduled in May and June, and I'll be showing these over time. The first one will be that district assembly that several of us have signed up for back at the end of March. It's now scheduled for May 16th. We'll see what happens there. So we'll keep showing these. So make a note of any of them that you choose to attend. I encourage the district assembly and maybe the celebrations and or the awards dinners are always great. Okay, anything else? All right, announcements. We have any announcements out there before I get to one I want to cover? I think Cece had one he wanted to make.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think I have some good news. Each year, our club participate in the matching grant program with the district. And this year we did, and we got total $7,000. Out of that $7,000, $3,500 come from our foundation, $3,500 from the district, and that was given to Meals on Wheels. 3 weeks ago, our district let our president know that there is additional $1,250 available for matching grant to the clubs in our district. The only restriction is we can use that only for food pantries. So our foundation made a decision to apply for a grant. That means our foundation will contribute $1,250, and the matching grant from the district is $1,250. So this morning we got the information that our matching grant application is approved. So we have additional $3,000. We decided to give that to Meals on Wheels again. The restriction is that funds can go only to food pantries. As you know, that's what they do. Talking to the directors of Meals on Wheels, we found out that they're still doing approximately 1,600 meals a day. But they have some challenges. The number of volunteers is going down, the cost is going up. but they're still doing it. So the board decided to contribute that $3,000 to the Meals on Wheels, which is approved by the district. So additional $2,500 will go to Meals on Wheels. The cost of these meals, just the meals only, is $4.95 per meal. With the operational expenses, it's about $8. So they are still doing it. They are giving about 1,500 to 1,600 meals a day. So that's a good news. We are able to do all these things because of our flag programs and all those kind of things, which make our foundation healthy. So that's all I have.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
That's
CC.
great.
Are there any other announcements anyone wants to make before I make one? Okay, so first I'll remind everybody, what is Rotary's motto? Service above self, right? Service above self is what it's about. And the basic premises of Rotary is that together or collectively, we can do more than we can as an individual, right? That's why they formed Rotary and brought it all together. And so most of us chose to be part of Rotary because it's a service organization and we can work really, really hard doing a lot of nice projects for people in the community, and each of you do that, as well as you make a lot of really great financial contributions along the way. And what you get in return for that, hopefully, is some networking opportunities. And I just got a note on there that says my internet's unstable. Unfortunately, I'm a DSL, so hopefully I don't drop out, but I warned you about it. But you get networking opportunities. Hopefully you get to enjoy some fellowship, and down deep, I hope you really get a good feeling for all the great stuff that you do and all the good you're doing, both locally and around the world. And at this time, with the current situation we have going on in our environment, there's a bigger demand than ever for projects, services, money, all those kinds of things. And your board's been off looking at all those, trying to do things. We've been through trying to figure out how to do a food pantry. We've been off trying to figure out how to deliver meals or groceries or other types of things to people in need. We even recently got asked to go look at distributing masks at grocery stores or hospitals or so on, those types of things. And those are all really great projects, but unfortunately, the board has looked at them and felt that by doing those kind of projects, we're exposing our members to the potential of being exposed to the COVID-19. And if just one of us gets sick, our efforts, it's just not worth the risk doing it. So we haven't. However, we still have an opportunity to do things financially. So your board met last week and spent well over an hour in a board meeting, majority of the time spent around what to do with our dues. Kathy had delayed our dues already, sending out the invoices until after we had this meeting. And we tried to wait until we could get the majority of the board together, at least 75%. And we know that a large portion of our money goes to paying for our meals at Rick's. And we collectively decided that we would take those funds and apply those, instead of to meals at Rick's, that we'd apply those to doing financial service in the community. And we prioritize what we're working on. First one being our very own members. We have a lot of people, including folks on this call right now, and I wish there was we had more members in attendance, but that have their own business, or they work for small or private firms. All those kinds of things are having hard financial impacts. And we have members that may not have the wherewithal to stay in the club if necessary, or they may need certain things. They also may get ill and need support. So we've allocated a portion of that unknown amount that we may receive from members to help our own members out. That's one of our first avenues. Our second avenue of service we were looking at was our local food pantries or food banks, those types of things, because there's a huge need out there in the community, as well as some of our own members may need those services going forward. We don't know who can all be impacted by this yet. And so that was one of our second areas we looked at. The third one we looked at was our first responders. And I wish Doug and Chief Connolly were on the phone and Danny Kistner, but our first responders and first line medical personnel, maybe we would do a twofold situation, buy some meals from local restaurants, including Rick's, which would help the economy and local businesses, but also give those meals to those first line responders we have out there. So that was our third one. Our fourth, and certainly not least, was our very own RI Foundation, because one of the things that happens when you get in a crisis like this is what little discretionary spending you have, you prioritize it, right? If you're making a choice between paying your bills, feeding your family, and paying your not only Rotary dues membership, but paying into the Rotary Foundation, those are going to come last. And so we wanted to still make contributions to that if we have the funds. So we don't know what that amount will be yet, because great news is some of the dues are coming in now, but that's what we chose to do with it. And so we actually decided to go ahead and invoice for the total amount with the plans to do that. And we put a letter in there, but I want to make sure it was clear. We understand if any member has a need, come forth. And I said in the letter, a board member or myself, and the board has discussed it, and we're very concerned about confidentiality and privacy of each of our members. So if you have a situation, get in touch with Paul Spartman, Mark Potter, or myself, and we'll be glad to go work that and see what assistance we can help. If you need help getting groceries, I saw Stella's on here. Stella's gone out and offered to go shopping for neighbors. There's another member that's not on here right now, but I know she's gone out and bought groceries for John and Judy Gay, who had a need. And we wouldn't have even have known it if they hadn't contacted them and said, hey, do you need anything? And they go, oh, heavens, yes, we do. So those are the kind of things we can do and still be a service to our members and our community. But our members are first. And we would hate to lose members because of this current financial situation if we can help it. So that's the decision we made, and I wanted to bring that forth. And I'd like to open it up for questions about that. Any questions or comments from anyone?
Please make sure you unmute if you'd like to speak.
Mike, I think that's a great idea to give back to the club and those that need our assistance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I had one comment, and I've heard of another one most recently, but one of them was, why didn't we let the club vote on it? I'll tell you why. It's time of essence. We were in a situation that we'd already delayed invoices for over a week, and this need is going to be hitting right now, and we can't spend funds we don't have. So we had to make a decision, and that's why you elected us as board members, was to make those kind of decisions for the club. So that's the reason we took action right away. And now we're trying to have discussions with our members, as well as we sent a letter out trying to explain it. But that's the only reason we didn't do that, because we need to get it going. And great news, Kathy tells me dues are coming in. Another quick side note, we're working on getting and we actually got it resolved this morning, but I haven't sent out the instructions yet. You can now pay your dues with a credit card again. So we have that working, and I'll be emailing the instructions. And I apologize for all the emails, but I'm trying to get people in the habit of coming to the virtual meeting. So please don't throw my emails away. I'll try not to send too many from district. I know they send enough. They're overloading mine. And the other great news is I've had 3 calls about my home warranty this morning, and I hadn't heard from Phyllis in 2 weeks, and I was really worried about her. And she's called me 3 times this morning on the recording, reminding me I need to do home warranty. So, but anyway, if you've got any questions or concerns, let me know. If you got anything that you want to ask now, please do. Bob, you're on mute, I believe. I see your lips moving, but I don't hear anything.
Okay, I unmuted you.
You did?
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
I was just going to remind everybody that Dr. Stella Stevens did volunteer if anybody needs any items from the grocery store. So I guess if anybody needs that help, or she'd be delighted to pick up some grocery items at the grocery store. So give her a call.
All right. Anything else from anyone? Any more announcements? Any more questions?
If anyone's able to give blood, go give blood. I put a picture, that's my 16-year-old. He's donating platelets. And I'm donating double red.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you guys can give blood, go give blood. It's you can't get it from donating. You can't get COVID-19 from donating.
And so from the district standpoint, they've asked for blood drive between April last week to tomorrow. And they'd like to know of people that gave blood. Daniel Long in Plano he's the local vampire for the district, and he coordinates all the blood drives, and they've asked for that, but I didn't send out an email on it because I know I got about 3 on it, and I imagine y'all have seen that on some of the Pam's emails and things like that. So that's great.
Mike, my phone number, if anybody does need any help shopping or getting items, it's 361-537-9997. Okay, so just let me know what you need. I don't have a problem going out.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else?
Stella, can you say your number one more time? I'll type it in the chat.
Or she can type it in the chat.
Yeah.
Stella, type your number in the chat session.
Do that.
Okay, great. All right. Anybody else have anything? If not, we'll turn it over to our very own state representative, Scott Sanford, and longtime member of the McKinney Rotary Club. Scott?
Thank you, Mike. I got to say, it is awesome to see everybody's faces. It's such an encouragement to be able to see people and to dialogue with them during this time. And thanks for asking me to speak briefly today. And there are 2 items that Mike asked me to cover. One would be an update on the state, I suppose, in the COVID virus, and the other a short devotional. What I thought I would do is, instead of giving you an update from the state level, because so many things that come out from the governor are easily accessible, I thought I would just tell you the things that our office is doing. We're blessed with a great staff. With Vanessa Tanner as our chief of staff in Austin, and many of you know Megan Pulley, who's our district director here locally. And so what we're doing now has completely changed in the last 4 weeks, and so much so that we've had to delay some very worthy items, things we were working on, such as protections for in child care facilities, issues such as those. They're very important, very worthy. But if it's not COVID-19, we're probably not working on it right now. But I've got a list. I thought I'd just kind of read you some of the things that we've been doing. One of the first things that happened was we had a local resident, 22-year-old young man, get stuck in Seoul, South Korea, and we couldn't get him back. He was in a, they put him in a hospital there and tested negative. But that's when all the travel restrictions began to happen. It took us a week, but we finally got him back. Working early on, we were working with school districts almost exclusively because they had so many questions. You might remember they were coming off of spring break. It looked like they were going to have another week off. And then they had STAR questions, STAR exam questions, and just connecting them with TEA, the Texas Education Agency. So we had a lot of dialogue with them and helping them get in the right, going the right direction there. I will say this, our commissioner of the TEA, Mike Morath, nailed this early on. As school districts were looking at, just at the end of spring break, having another week off, Mike said, this is going to, oh, and the big question was the STAR test. We don't want to do the STAR test because we're going to miss so much time, get us waivers from the STAR test. And he said, guys, it's going to be a moot point because school is not going to go back. And here's his reasoning at the time, that to affect any social change in the health condition of a culture or a community, it takes 8 weeks to do that. So he said, if you just look at the calendar, you'll see that 8 weeks will take us well into May, which means that we're probably not going back anytime this semester, which means that there won't be any STAR exams, which means that the points probably move. Of course, it did get an official cancellation, if you will, of the STAR exams, which required a federal waiver as well, because a lot of federal government funding is contingent upon those assessment exams taking place. But that Mike Morath did kind of nail where this was going as it relates to schools early on. We're helping individuals file unemployment claims, and we're also helping local businesses assist their employees if they've had a layoff to file mass unemployment claims. Employers can do that. We've also just recently allocated some of our staff time to work with the Texas Workforce Commission and to be trained so that they can work almost as Texas Workforce Commission employees. Legislative offices around the state are doing this so that we can just help with some of our staff's time in this very important matter. And because TWC is just being deluged, of course, with phone calls. Now you have to, if you're going to file a claim or you need to contact them, there's a system or an appointed day based upon the first digit of your area code of when you can call in to file those claims. And we're moving servers, we're doubling the amount of servers and moving some of them to the cloud. So things will be better in that regard for those who need to interact with the Texas Workforce Commission. We requested that local craft breweries be allowed to ship and deliver. Our Tups is one of our local breweries, and their business is to say the least, because so much of the revenue is based upon sales through bars and restaurants, and that's just simply not available to them anymore. So they would like their business is basically people walk in and get delivered into their cars. They want to be able to deliver as well. So we put that request in to the governor's office. We requested that speech language pathologists, interns, and assistants be able to perform telehealth services. So you had all of these people who needed the services that they were getting from these pathologists, interns, and assistants to advance their speech or to regain their speech. And many of these, of course, are young people, and they just couldn't get their speech pathology services. So we put in worked with that group and wrote a letter to the governor, and 48 hours later, bless Governor Abbott, waived any regulations that would prohibit these pathologists to be able to perform on a telehealth basis. So we're really excited about that. That came out yesterday. We had a constituent here locally that was a retired nurse. He said, I want to help in this crisis, but the state requirements for me to get back into the, or to be licensed means that I've got to go get a lot of continuing education, and I have to take an exam and have to pay a fee. And those are tall, high barriers. So we got on that and worked with the nurses and wrote a letter to the governor again. And within 48 hours, same thing. He just waived all of those requirements so that retired nurses could get their license back post haste. Of course, we're helping people with the CARES Act, even though that's a federal program. We've been through several briefings of that and just walking people through that. Let's see. One of the things we're doing is helping ensure that local emergency declarations are constitutional and particularly respect religious liberty laws. We also do the same thing with the
now I can talk. I turned it off.
paycheck protection loans and making sure that, see, a lot of the SBA regulations are not nonprofit friendly or friendly. So we had to get in a position with attorneys to actually sue the federal government, who would show up and agree with us and concede the fact so that these SBA regulations wouldn't go against the legislative intent that nonprofits and faith-based organizations could participate in those paycheck protection laws. Well, it turns out we didn't have to sue. It was fixed regulatorily. The Trump administration overnight, 2 nights to fix that with the regulations, but that did require a little bit of work on our behalf. We're working with doctors, with the Texas Medical Board regarding surgeries. You've probably seen news stories on that. Still got some work to go there. Help doctors get clarification on from the TDI, Texas Department of Insurance, regarding telemedicine coverage to make sure that they can still get paid through insurance programs if they interact with their customer, with their patients over telemedicine. And assisting small businesses that are here, several here locally who've contacted us saying, we want to help make masks or other personal protection equipment. How do we get in touch with someone so that we can help with that? And we send them to the Texas Department of Emergency Management and the State Operations Center to help them get plugged in with that. Many other things. That's just a list of what we're doing in our office. The conference call opportunities are endless, and we're at the place now where we're having to make decisions on which one would be most helpful. Would it be the TEA's call, or the TWC's call, or the TCCRI's call, or the governor's call, or the Speaker of the House's call? So many conference call opportunities for us, and we're having to prioritize those. I would relish your questions. If you have any, it might be best to, if you want to do it now, that'd be fine, or if you want to contact me offline. I think almost all of you have my cell phone number. Feel free to give me a call or text or email us, and we'll answer any questions that we can. I'll pause for just a second, just in case anybody has any questions.
Scott, I put my question in the chat, but if you're not looking at it, what's the turnaround time on the emergency EIDL funding, the 10,000? It was supposed to be like 2 or 3 days, and I think it's been a week and a half since we applied, still nothing. So are you familiar with that, or?
I am not. Is that the federal program?
That's yes, the emergency disaster loan.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My second question is, if we had employees try to file for unemployment, we had out of 30, 15 of them were unable to get through in the system. It kept kicking them out. Can we fill out that mass form and send it to you to help us? Because we've sent it and got nothing.
Yes, call our office, and we've got some experience with that. And I think
okay. Great.
Okay. Well, Mike, should I press on to the next topic real quickly? I guess I will. And so it's just, Mike asked me to do a quick devotional. And I'm so inspired by Rotary, and there's so many Easter stories, and you know, Easter is such a great time of hope. And Rotary for me is there's just a lot of hope that I see and that I experience just by affiliating with you. But so many stories to choose from for an Easter time devotional, and I thought I would talk a little bit about the Jesus washing of the disciples' feet. And so it's in John chapter 13, and I'll read some verses and I'll speak to them briefly. John chapter 13, verses 4, 5, and 6. And so the time frame here is that this would be last night in the Easter story. It would be the celebration of the Passover meal. And Jesus and his disciples had gotten together. His ministry had turned more private as opposed to more public during this time. So he's spending a lot of time with his disciples. And they're having the Passover meal. But in verse 4, he says, "So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter." If you know anything about Simon Peter, you know something's about to happen. Something unusual and entertaining is about to happen. And Peter said, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Well, the context here is that, Peter said, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" The foot washing in that time was just because it was dusty and people would come into the home and the feet would be stinky and dirty. And it would be the custom that the lowest servant of the household would wash the feet, the lowest servant. And it was never peer to peer. It was never the master washing feet or peers. It was always the lowest servant. And so here Jesus is washing feet, and he comes to Peter and he says, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" And so verses 7, 8, and 9 goes on a little further in that conversation. Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you'll understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." And that's very Peter-esque, right? And then Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." Then verse 9, Peter says, "Then Lord, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." So, Peter just wanted to first of all, protect he didn't see Jesus it appropriate for Jesus to wash somebody's feet. And Jesus wanted to show that, hey, I'm a servant, and I'm a servant leader. And Peter, though, just wanted to say, well, if you're going to wash my feet, Lord, I love you so much, wash all of me. And Jesus took this as an opportunity to put in another lesson within the bigger lesson that he's in, the bigger example that he's giving here. And in verse 10, Jesus says that those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you. He's talking about Judas there because he was going to betray him. But we've got a little bit of Greek to learn with verse 10. So there are two words. One is nipto, and that's a little washing. So that's when you wash your hands or you wash your feet or you just do a little washing. That word is nipto. And that's what Jesus was doing. He's doing a nipto, just washing of the feet, a little feet. But then there's the other word, which is luo, which is the total bath, just the whole body bath. And so in verse 10 again, Jesus said, those who have had a luo, a full bath, need only to wash their feet, or a nipto type of washing, because their whole body is clean. And he's saying, you are clean. So the lesson within the lesson is that for those who are Christ followers, they've had the big washing. They've been forgiven of their sins, and they don't need it again. But as Christians go and walk, their feet get dirty. Our feet get dirty because we still sin. And then that's where we need the nipto, the coming to God and asking for forgiveness on a daily or as needed basis, because we certainly do. And that's just to restore our quantity, our fellowship with God, our dialogue with God, agreeing that we do indeed sin. But so Jesus makes that point that, hey, you don't need the whole bath again. You've already been forgiven of your sins when you put your faith and trust in me. And so now you just need the nipto, not the luo. Okay, so moving on to verses 12 through 15. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should wash one another's feet. Verse 15, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I'm going to say that again. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. In verse 17, now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So Jesus says, hey, I've given you an example, and I've washed your feet, and I've served you, even though you call me teacher and Lord, and that was the right thing to call him. He said, but I've washed your feet. Now you go wash one another's feet. And that's what gets me back to Rotary and being such a blessing, is because our club is so blessed. We're just filled with people who just do that. And they do it just as they go and as they dialogue. It's just so natural as I interact with you. I just see people or just observe people serving one another. But then, of course, there's the bigger service that the club does together, doing bigger things locally or around the world. But that's the example that the Lord gave us, was to serve. So the question is, we're talking to a room full of, well, not a room full, a Zoom full of servants and servant leaders. And we have this Easter time example and encouragement to serve and to look for needs and to serve. So, and it's become a little more difficult. There's a lot of opportunity, but one of the ways you can serve during this time is contact. People at this point in time will love to hear from you, and just know that they'll value a reach out, a phone call, a text message, an email, just saying, hey, how are you and yours? And just that reaching out to show that we care, that is so meaningful during these times. I think this is meaningful. So Mike, thank you for putting it together, because it's such an encouragement. And I don't know if you realize it or not, but just by holding this meeting, Mike and the board, you're encouraging us, and you're serving us, because we're receiving the encouragement of each other. So as we go throughout the Easter season, let's take Jesus' example, this and many others, of service and loving our neighbor, and service above self. That's all I got, Mike.
Thank you. We have any questions or comments from the people? You're all on mute right now. I'll remind you, if you have something to say, you'll need to unmute. Well, Scott, we really appreciate you doing this, especially at this time where we feel really compelled to and have a need. So we truly thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else have any comments or anything for Scott? Okay, well, let's take it back to the peanut gallery then, to the overall view of everyone. Celeste, if you will, get everyone's picture on there. I want to mention again, when we have a guest from the Sunset Club, Steve Barata. He's the chairman of the Sunset Club, and several of us have joined them in their little happy hour sessions they have in the evening, and we want to encourage that cross-pollination. His club too is doing Zoom meetings. I don't believe the Sunrise Club is, but the Sunset Club has helped one, and they're going to try to have a virtual happy hour here pretty soon. So we'll see. And it's BYOB, I think, but that's coming. And next week, a couple of our members are going to join us and try to help us learn how to navigate Zoom a little bit better. You saw how much fun that was just getting to play with it before we started this meeting. So I think we'll have a great time doing that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank Celeste and the Habitat for Humanity for several things. One, providing this Zoom event for us to do it without us having to go out and get one. And secondly, for the countless amount of hours she put in this past week that most of you don't have a clue about, working with Zoom and IT folks on making sure that we had a passworded safe connection in here. Sorry, Steve, when we were kind of drilling who you were, but we had some questions about the Zoom security. So that's when we did the password connection thing. And so we were trying to be very careful to make sure that we didn't compromise any of our members or their computing or phone equipment this way. And Celeste has really gone out of her way to work on that. So that we truly appreciate both of those. And again, I'd like to thank the foundation board, who not all the members here, but we have several on here for approving the special grant for the Meals on Wheels. Just this morning got another request from them. We've stopped our temporarily daily deliveries, and they're delivering 2 weeks worth of food at a time, frozen packages, and freezing it. And it's getting ready to be time to go make that round and do that again. But they say they're in dire need for people and funds, because most of their delivery people are people like me who are in the age group that are considered at risk type things. So they've lost a lot of that support. Okay, so now we're seeing Celeste. Anybody else have anything? All right. Then I'll adjourn this meeting, and I really want to thank all of you for coming. We did take a manual attendance. We haven't decided yet if we're going to record the attendance, because we don't want to count it against a member for not attending if maybe they're being technically challenged right now, not knowing how to use this tool and those types of things. But we'll be continuing to try to communicate that. Any further comments or anything from anyone?
Can I get everybody to wave their hand so I can take a picture for our page? Okay, hold on. Let me get my camera back up. Oh.
I'll wave this in.
Hold on just a second. Keep waving. All right. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
I think it'd be safe to post those pictures like the one you did of the board meeting on our websites. I think that would be not compromising anybody. So she took a great snapshot of our board in our Zoom meeting last week, and it was awesome. Okay, anything else? All right, I'd like to call the meeting adjourned then, and thank you for joining, and please share with any other Rotarians you talk to about how painless this was, I hope. Thanks, and have a blessed Easter weekend. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.